a child as the time can fly. Whatever words they say, I won't care. Inside my mind, it's like a wind. Don't be shy of what you feel, 'cause it's the result of what you give. And I lose all my air, and I lose all my air. And I lose all my air, and I lose my air. And I lose all my air, and I cry, but I feel so free now. However far away, I will be one like a child as the time can fly.
Good afternoon and a warm welcome to the Santam Women of the Future Awards in association with FAIRLADY and TRUELOVE. To all our nominees, judges, our studio guests, and every guest who will be joining us via live stream. I know that we have Reedy Klabi watching in Johannesburg. Hello, Reedy. And also Roxanne Kluter, who coordinated this event from Germany. Ladies, we are separated and socially distant because of COVID, but your presence is very much felt in the room. Then I'd also like to welcome the South African Consul General in Munich, Ms. Ruleta Lebelo. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. All protocols observed. My name is Doreen Morris, and it's such a pleasure for me to be here and to serve you as your program director today. The difference between a broken community and a thriving one is the presence of women who are valued. This quote by Michelle Obama just seems so appropriate on this occasion. The Santam Women of the Future Awards, in association with FAIRLADY, and for the first time this year, TRUELOVE have partnered up in the search to find the best female entrepreneurs in the country. In the midst of this pandemic, Melinda Gates reminds us that women are not just victims in a broken world, they can be the architects of a better one. While the COVID-19 pandemic has had devastating and disproportionate impact on women, minorities, and the poor, much has been written about the effectiveness of the leadership traits exhibited by women. Comprising only 8% of political leaders globally, women have accounted for the most effective responses to COVID-19. Women-led countries have a 6 times lower death rate than those led by male counterparts in similar countries, and that's according to the Financial Times, Fortune, Forbes, and the New York Times. Now, what have these women leaders done differently? They have emphasized consultation and collaboration with scientists and experts. They've led with compassion by putting people's lives first. They've been transparent, flexible, willing to admit mistakes, followed clear, consistent communication, and they've encouraged values of cooperation and empathy. Now, those are values, as you'll see, that our winners today hold dear. Values that resonate with our headline sponsor, Santam, who have joined us to recognize, celebrate, and affirm the top women entrepreneurs for the 6th year. With their partnership, many of the previous winners and finalists have been recognized and awarded locally and internationally. Santam has been in the business of protecting South Africans' most important assets and valuables for more than 100 years now. This company has been through 2 world wars, the Great Depression, the first man on the moon, the digital and industrial revolutions, and the dawn of our democracy. So thank you, Santam, for your continued support of our female entrepreneurs and for your continued commitment to our country. A special thank you to Mukaedi Dilot-Shotle, Chief Marketing Officer at Santam, for your continued faith in these awards. We also want to thank Lula Lend, co-sponsor for the awards, and they're all about providing fast and easy finance for your startup. Thank you for coming on board as the co-sponsor, and thank you for believing in and supporting female entrepreneurs. Estee Lauder is our beauty sponsor. Now, this incredible beauty brand was founded by a woman and made with women in mind. And like Estee Lauder, we too believe that true beauty really comes from within. It comes from within bottles and tubes and jars and ampules and dispensers. Thank you, Boschendal, for being the official wine sponsor for the 3rd year now. Our prize sponsors, Gibbs, that's the Gordon Institute of Business Science, Lithotech, Samsonite, Misguided, and Over the Rainbow. A special word of welcome and thanks now to our esteemed panel of judges. First, I'd like to introduce a woman who is the very epitome of courage and leadership. She's the chair for social justice at Stellenbosch University. She's the founder of the Social Justice M-Plan and the Tuma Foundation, Professor Thuli Madonsela. Devoting her considerable skill set to developing human capital, specifically creating opportunities for women, we have the Executive Head of Women Resources at Santam, Enid Lissamore. A true titan of business who now helps fledgling businesses to find their feet, we have social entrepreneur Dawn Nathan-Jones. And if integrity were a person, because she is known for speaking truth to power fearlessly, we welcome radio and TV anchor, author, producer, and facilitator joining us via live stream, Ridi Klabi, and the editor of FAIRLADY, whom I'll introduce in greater detail in just a moment. She is Susie Brokenshaw. Susie has been at the helm of FAIRLADY for these past 15 years. Under her leadership, this iconic South African brand has grown and diversified while still remaining its authentic, original, and passionate, true to its authentic, original, and passionate South African voice. Susie loves playing poker, cracking, I knew that one would crack me up, it's a tongue twister, cracking cryptic crosswords. My English broke there. She loves reading, cooking long, lazy lunches for family and friends, and then she goes on to say that she loves walking every day with her gobby, ridiculous dog. She loves doing yoga, writing whenever she has the time, and then she hopes to write a script one day. Let's extend our warmest virtual welcome now to the editor of FAIRLADY, Susie Brokenshaw. Susie.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's lovely to have you here today. Thank you for coming, and thank you everybody out there for joining us too. This is a first for us in terms of format, so forgive us if we bumble around a bit. And also, this is the first time I've worn high heels for about 8 months, so anything could happen. Thank you for bearing with us. Sorry, but I'm sure it's going to be as fabulous as ever because Women of the Future is all about extraordinary women. And this room is absolutely heaving with you. So thank you. It's such a delight to be here. This is our 6th Women of the Future Awards. And I would really like to thank Santam for partnering with us right from the start. You already had that vision back then to see what we could accomplish together for women in business all those years ago. So thank you for that. In particular, thanks to Mokaedi, Santam's Chief Marketing Officer, for always being a champion of South African women. He has championed us right from the start and has really stuck to his belief that women should be a part of our economy. Thank you, Mokaedi, we see you. This is the first year that our sister magazine, TRUELOVE, has partnered with us too, and we're delighted to have them on board going forward. I'm very sad that Mbali, the editor, couldn't be with us today, but she is with us in spirit, and I'm so happy to have them on board. I'd also like to thank our judges. Firstly, Professor Thuli Madonsela, who has also been with us right from the beginning. Thank you, Thuli, and who always manages to make time for us in her very, very busy schedule and to offer her advice and input. It's an honor and a joy to work with you on this fantastic and inspiring project. Thank you, Thuli. Thank you, too, to Enid Lissamore, Executive Head of HR at Santam, Dawn Nathan-Jones, renowned social entrepreneur, shark and mentor, Ridi Klabi, journalist, producer, author, and all-round inspiration, and my fabulous colleague Mbali, obviously. Ridi is in Gauteng, but with us on Zoom, as we know. And of course, as always, to our brand manager and project manager, Roxanne, for being the incredibly detailed and effective engine behind everything we do, from the first call to entry, to this beautiful room we're sitting in right now. Well, this room is beautiful, but wait until you see the lunchtime venue. That'll also blow you away. Right, so I'm going to talk very briefly because I know there's so much exciting stuff to get on with. But I do just always want to say a few words because I've been a woman for some time now, and I have come to the conclusion that business and women, it's a very difficult situation to be in. So if somebody says business unusual again, I may have to take a hostage. I'm really so tired of it. We are women. It's always been business unusual for us. But this year, the number of employed South Africans has dropped by 2.2 million. And 1 in 4 women has left the workforce, largely because the constant juggling between homeschooling, housekeeping, and remote work became unbearable. Our economy is in crisis. And as Barack Obama said, we're definitely quoting the Obamas today, there is no tool for development more effective than the empowerment of women. That's why FAIRLADY and all of us here today stand squarely behind female entrepreneurs It is our fundamental belief that the only real way to change society for the better, God, that's much better without my glasses, sorry. Society for the better for all of us, men, women, and children, is for women to become economically viable in their own right. It's only when women are economically viable in their own right that they can leave situations that are dangerous for them. That has to happen before anything else happens in our quest for justice in this society. So I want to thank our entrepreneurs, not only for doing that for themselves so magnificently, but also for the way you have empowered other women, other people through your endeavors. I just want to tell you a quick story about a woman, Yishi Dawa, who started a now hugely successful gluten-free bakery in Australia. It's called the Midnight Bakery because when she started, she had zero money, she had no resources. So she approached an existing restaurant and she said to them, would they mind if she took over their kitchen at night when their staff weren't there and baked her bread during the night. And then in the morning she would clean up and before their staff arrived, and then the restaurant would take over again. The Midnight Baker is now an extremely good business, so good that Yishi has opened her own restaurant. When she's not using her kitchen, she allows other startups to use it. When she closes her restaurant, it opens for someone else, becoming an art or theater space. This is how she explains why she does what she does. She said, we all have the same universal desire, which is freedom from suffering and pain. Our well-being depends on rising together and looking after each other. And that sounds, she's Australian, Yishi, but that sounds a lot like Ubuntu to me. And I think we have a head start on that. So you women are all role models to me because you're blazing ahead, changing the world to make it work on your own terms. You're rebels and earthshakers. You're the dreamers of dreams. Somebody once told me there's only one real reaction to a sudden crisis, and that is, so what, followed by, now what? And what I love about that is it's like you accept where you are. This is where we are. This is what happened. But now what? I love the future focus of that now what? What do we do now? So that's the effect that COVID has had on all of us. We can't deny the effect it's had on us, but it's where to from now? What do we do now? You women are focusing squarely on the answer to that second question, where to from here? We owe you respect, not only our deepest respect, but also a debt of gratitude for what you are doing for our economy and our country. Thank you. I salute you. And I now call on our wonderful partner, Enid Lissamore from Santam, to say a few words.
Thank you, Susie, and good afternoon all. To our studio audience, to our wonderful judges, to our finalists, and of course to our live stream audience. And whilst it's fantastic to have such a large live stream audience, I have to admit I'm extremely relieved that I cannot see you right now, as it would only increase the incredible levels of nervousness and anxiety I'm experiencing. So thank you for having me back, and similar to last year, after hearing about the phenomenal women, our incredible judges, the finalists who have just done amazing things, I can safely assume the position of least accomplished in this room. Yet, ironically, I have never felt prouder to stand next to these women who are making such a worthy contribution to South Africa. We have all spoken excessively about the remarkable, anxiety-ridden, challenging times we are living in, unprecedented in the breadth and depth of its impact both globally and locally. And it begs the question, why? Why us to navigate during this time now? Why you? Why me? And why now? I look around the room at the strength, the perseverance, and the tenacity of our nominees and our finalists, and all the thousands and thousands of South Africans who are equally making a meaningful contribution. People who are willing to stand up and be counted. People who do not hide behind blame and excuses, but instead seek to change the course of history for themselves, their families, and the societies they serve. South Africa is experiencing the biggest crisis we would possibly ever face. And when I ponder what we have to do that's before us, I cannot contemplate the change that is required. We have all been so affected by the devastating impact of both COVID and corruption, intense turmoil in our political, economic, and personal lives. And like many generations before us, when faced with turmoil, when faced with calamity and uncertainty, we could choose hope, we could choose purpose, and we could strive to make a difference in the world, our South Africa. So what will be the legacy we choose to leave behind? I truly believe that we can choose to make South Africa a country we are proud of again, a place where race, gender, and inequality are not differentiators of success, a place that is free of greed, intolerance, and disrespect, a place where our differences are celebrated, our values ground us, and where people's lives, their livelihoods, and their possessions are respected. Being cognizant of the narrative in South Africa and the roles that we can play and should be playing, and reading through each of the nominations over the course of the past few weeks, I am proud to be part of a purposeful initiative, empowering and creating a meaningful impact in South Africa. I would like to extend again a huge thank you to our finalists and our nominees and our rising stars and those here today. All of you have inspired me with a common thread of the unwavering steadfastness, leadership, and bravery that is woven through your powerful and authentic stories. I'm honored to share a platform with such remarkable, intuitive, passionate, and hardworking women who are just changing the world. Each one of you have been required to adapt and pivot despite very, very tense economic times. And pivoting takes planning, it takes agility, it takes courage. Doris Viljoen, a senior futurist at Stellenbosch University, believes that now is the time for entrepreneurs to spot market gaps and come up with the micro-innovations required to fill them. And who better than women? Numerous global trends were already emerging before COVID-19, and now they provide opportunities for businesses to accelerate that journey. An example we can all celebrate, where courage and innovation persevered, is that of Philippa Gerd, the previous winner of the Santam Women of the Future competition, and the founder and CEO of Recruit My Mums. And like most entrepreneurs and small businesses, Philippa had a tough time during lockdown, and is that not the understatement of the decade? Philippa went from a full job book to next to no job book in a week, and soon realized that her clients would be in a very, very similar position. So she refocused her business to educate and inspire her clients to make the move toward remote working. She founded her business in 2012 to provide opportunities for skilled mothers driven out of the workplace by inflexible working practices. She aimed to find a way to stop the gender and skills leak, and identified remote working as a solution very early on. The pandemic has accelerated this adoption of an agenda she has been pushing for the past 8 years. And she believes that the ability to work more flexibly and remotely is a powerful combination that women saw around corners. By refocusing her businesses, she was able to make a difference, and at scale. So this example of business intuition and courage are some of the many reasons that Santam, as the leading South African insurer, is involved with the FAIRLADY Women of the Future initiative. We understand that the first 1,000 days of running one's own business are indeed the hardest. And through our support of this competition, we recognize extraordinary women who have made it past the first 1,000 days. Women who are building an empire, changing their communities. Women we want to recognize and propel to grow their businesses. We are passionate about upskilling all stakeholders, particularly women, in the local commercial enterprise space. We see this as one of the foremost ways to catalyze sustainable economic growth in South Africa for generations to come, leaving behind a legacy we can all be proud of. So what are some of those learnings from the entrepreneurial journey? Firstly, perseverance, whilst difficult, will always be rewarded. Give to others, but make yourself a priority. Lead with confidence and clarity. Build a longer table. and place community involvement and development at the forefront of your business. But above all else, love the challenge and reward of empowering and supporting those around you. In closing, I wish to reaffirm my respect and appreciation for your courage, your determination, and your spirited approach. Congratulations to our Women of the Future finalists, Social Entrepreneur finalists, and our Rising Stars. Your achievements are astonishing and indeed remarkable, and the impact and difference you are making will have a ripple effect for generations to come. So reflecting on my previous question, what is the legacy we will leave behind? As women leading into the future, we are called upon to step with bravery and courage. In Malala Yousafzai's wise words, let us make our future now, and let us make our dreams tomorrow's reality. I, for one, when I look around this room, feel the future is safe in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susie. Thank you, Enid. And I wish that you could just stand where we are right now for a moment, because you would see a snapshot of hope, of purpose, and of resilience. And we owe you and every other woman entrepreneur out there an eternal debt of gratitude. Now, Enid mentioned the independent survey done by Santam that found that the first 1,000 days of business are indeed the hardest. And if you're still in business by day 1001, you are likely to succeed in the long term. Now, with 728 entries received, we are proud to introduce you now to our 9 finalists. First up is the Rising Star Award. Now, these young go-getters are still under 30, and still their business is still within its first 1,000 days, but the judges believe that they will flourish well beyond then.
What inspired me to start Shisha is how I was born. I was born in a rural area without any medical assistance. So while my mother was pregnant, they called the ambulances, but it didn't arrive until my mother gave birth to me. So she was assisted by neighbors. So that has been my inspiration behind me starting Shisha app. And another thing, I made a research like what could have caused them not to come on time, not to respond on time, the ambulances. Then I found that one of the reasons is the fact that the place or the area does not have street addresses or street names. So instead of complaining and blaming other people, I came up with a solution, which is Shisha app, which provides emergency services for everyone out there to be able to request any emergency service anytime and anywhere they are, regardless of where they are based. An advice that I can give to someone out there is that be aware that it's going to be challenging, and make sure that your business is always relevant, and also be consistent and give it your all, and make sure that you get all the knowledge you need, or advance yourself. Make sure that you are always relevant. It is, as a youth of South Africa or as women of South Africa, it is really up to us to build the world we want to live in. Winning the Santam Rising Star Award will mean more exposure to more opportunities out there, and getting an opportunity to inspire other young people out there that it is possible to make it regardless of where you're coming from, regardless of your background, regardless of all the obstacles that you've came across in your life.
Being slim does not always mean that we're a healthy individual. As a lab rat, I'm always obsessed with my research, neglecting to take care of my body through physical activities because I'm always tired. Thus, consumption of the current energy drinks was a totally no for me due to their high in sugar, caffeine, acid, and they actually cause my body to crash. This has inspired me to come up with an alternative, healthier energy drink, of which it will also inspire other youth to live an active, healthy lifestyle. My company produces and supplies beverage products. Our first product is Vibra Energy Drink. To expand the company, we have introduced Sparket Sport Drink, which is available in 3 awesome flavors, and Mtoti Still Water. Mtoti is a South African brand name that takes us back to our South African history of King Shaka Zulu, which means something nice and soothing. Growing up in a township like Umlazi could be really challenging as we encounter a lot of obstacles, but it takes determination and dedication to stay focused on your path. One piece of advice that I would give to upcoming entrepreneurs is, no matter how weird your business idea might sound to the next person, just never hesitate to work on your dreams and business to turn it into reality. Winning the Santam Rising Star Award would be of great achievement for me in order to set up an example to my peers and younger generation from various townships that working hard and discipline really pays off.
I couldn't find work after I finished my chemical engineering course in 2015. And then I found myself pregnant and without an income, so I needed to think outside the box to generate an income to support my daughter. And then I eventually landed onto this piece of land, and I thought, why not get it to good use like it was working before. As our projects grows tomatoes and peppers for the hawkers market, local retailers, and the school's nutrition program. The one piece of advice I would give to them is just to start wherever they are with whatever resources that they have. That is what I used, and I'd also advise them to attend business seminars or webinars and business competitions. Those things are free to enter. So that's what helped me get to where I am today. Winning the Rising Star Award would validate my products into the market that I currently supply. It would also give hope to those in villages and rural communities that success is possible no matter where you come from. You just need to start bit by bit. You never know who's watching.
Those were our rising stars. We continue now with our social entrepreneurs. These women are 30 or older, and their social enterprises have survived the first 1,000 days. They are also making a real difference in their communities. The Social Entrepreneur Awards.
I'm the chairperson of 2 non-profit organizations in Howick and KwaZulu-Natal. The one is Thembelihle School and the other is Angels Care Centre. At Thembelihle School, we look after and educate 400 children in absolutely world-class facilities, and they're children who all come from extremely underprivileged homes. I'm also the chairperson at Angels Care, where I'm very passionate through the work that I've done with the DNA project and with my background as a geneticist. I'm extremely passionate about gender-based violence against women and children, but specifically against children. And so at Angels Care, we have a number of different things, different programs that we run. I think the one skill that is necessary to run in organizations or organizations like I do is the ability to move very easily from one environment to another and to be able to engage with all constituencies, along with, of course, unending passion and dedication and waking up every morning and knowing that even if I make a difference in one child's life, it was worth it. Winning the Social Entrepreneur Award for me would be hugely beneficial in raising the profile of the 2 organizations that I so passionately lead. First of all, to enhance the services that we currently provide, but also expand them and ensure their longer-term sustainability.
The Retrade Project is a social upliftment initiative based in Port Elizabeth, and we are creating informal employment through the exchange of recyclables for people's basic human essentials, such as clothing, blankets, and dry goods. We have a recycling depot that's set up and a spaza shop as well. So individuals come on a Friday morning and we have a bartering system that works on a points-based system, and we have an exchange inside our store. I think one of the biggest differences that we're making in our community is a value-based difference. And we know that if we can change values, we can change behaviors, and if we can change behaviors, we can change circumstances. If we had all the resources in the world, I think that there is no end to what we could dream. We have so many amazing visions for what PE could look like. And I think one of them would be that we'd love to see satellite projects all over the city where people could barter their recyclables for food. Winning the Santam Award would just be such an amazing achievement all around. I think it would gain great media coverage for us and just be such an amazing achievement for our volunteers and for our traders that work so tirelessly for their families, for themselves. That in itself is a huge achievement.
I'm the founder and CEO of Iris House Children's Hospice. We provide respite care to special needs children with life-limiting and life-threatening conditions in the Western Cape. We also provide a overarching holistic care for the whole family of a special needs child. Currently we have 542 children in our care, and we have 46 communities that we care for. The difference Iris House makes in the community is twofold. Firstly, obviously we're there for the special needs children and their families to give them the support that they need. But over and above that, we also go about educating people to what special needs are, so that our families can live better within their own communities and feel more accepted by people. It's a very important part of what we do, because not everybody knows what to do and how to adapt to a special needs child. Winning this award would be absolutely amazing for myself and for everybody at Iris House, and in particular the children that we care for, because not only would it put us on a national platform, but it would also give people the opportunity to see and peek behind the curtains a little bit into the world of special needs.
We continue now with the Woman of the Future Award, which recognizes a female entrepreneur who survived the first 1,000 days of business and who is well on her way to creating an empire.
At the age of 20, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a lymph cancer. And the more I learned about health, the more I learned that I had something to share with other people, and that's where the Harvest Table was born. The Harvest Table supplies whole health foods across South Africa, and we also educate women on their journey in health and how improving their health can assist them to reach their dreams. I grew up in a household with entrepreneurs, and so I was really blessed with the opportunity to see business in action from a very young age. My parents included me in their business activities from a young age, and I really count that as a blessing because it really guided me in terms of my own entrepreneurial journey and thinking. Before I started my business, I wish someone had told me how difficult and lonely the journey of entrepreneurship can be, and yet it can be absolutely thrilling. I think one of the greatest lessons I've learned is to really surround myself with people who love me and who speak wise words into my life. And because I've surrounded myself with these people, it has made the journey so much easier. I envision the Harvest Table really being a business that impacts many lives across this country and maybe even across the globe. We really feel that our business is more than just the products we sell, that we have a message for women that they can take hold of their health and improve their health so that they can achieve all of their dreams that they've set out for themselves and their families. And we really believe that in the future we will be able to reach a much greater audience of women. So winning the Santam Women of the Future Award would obviously be incredibly important to my team and I, and validate the work that we do. But also one of our goals is to reach as many women as possible, to share this journey of health and wellness with them. And this would really assist us in that journey just to get our message out to more people.
company is called Jezreel Craig Holdings. What inspired me to start my business was my son. I was in an absolutely amazing job that I loved, and for 10 years I was living my passion. My son turned 1 and he was then diagnosed with cerebral palsy, and that is what inspired me to start my own business. So Jezreel Craig Holdings is a company that's built on what we call the STAR model. We provide the medical and pharmaceutical industry with strategy, training, and recruitment. I think I've always been business-minded. I've always had an idea for business. I think the most important thing about being business-minded is taking the risk, and I've always been a risk taker. So winning the Santam Women of the Future award is not just for myself. It's an award that I would like to take for all moms who have kids with disabilities, to say to you that it's not impossible to reach for your dreams, and it's not impossible for you to have a child with disabilities but still reach for the stars.
I'm the CEO and founder of QuadCare Primary Health and QuadCare Occupational Health. Firstly, what inspired me into going into medicine? My grandmother would visit us from the villages around Hammanskraal. We lived in a township in Temba. So she would come once a month, so I would go with her to the only local doctor we had in the township. So in that, while we were waiting in those queues, because the queues would be very long, she would say to me, one day you must grow up and become a doctor so I don't have to wait so long just to see a doctor. So QuadCare is a primary health solution for the low to middle income market. So we run a network of medical centers. Through the QuadCare Occupational Health, we contract companies in high-risk industries like your mining, construction, a logistics company, and just provide health services for their workforce. When I started QuadCare, it was just one clinic and me passionate about serving the community of Vryburg. So from last year, October, when the investors joined, we are now at 9 clinics. And by next year, we should be at 20 clinics. And in 5 years, I want to have 50 plus clinics across the country, just impacting how healthcare is delivered to poor people in this country. Winning this award would be like an acknowledgement, from my peers, from the communities that I serve, to say, hey, Doc, you're doing great. We really see what you are doing and we appreciate it. And I think also bragging rights, the title is quite heavy, Woman of the Future. So to win an award like this and be called a Woman of the Future is really a good pat on the back.
You've heard from our phenomenal finalists there. Now, we hear phrases like the new normal and unprecedented times bandied about very loosely these days. But what does that mean to you as women entrepreneurs in South Africa today? Our panel of judges have identified some of the challenges that you grapple with on a daily basis, and we will hear from them now. We'll also have the opportunity to pose questions from the audience who are joining us via live stream. You can pose your questions to our judges at the end of the session. Now, up first, I would like to introduce Professor Thuli Madonsela. We had a moment to just exchange views back in the makeup room, and I gathered that something that's really pressing on your heart right now are the challenges facing entrepreneurs of mental health and heightened anxiety in a radically changing entrepreneurial landscape, such as that presented by COVID-19. There's the fourth industrial revolution and transitional states induced by social inclusion programs. Would you like to speak to that?
Absolutely. Firstly, just to say thank you, Doreen, for the privilege, and thank you to Santam, FAIRLADY, TRUELOVE, and everyone involved in this process. And congratulations to everyone who's been nominated. The question of mental health is something that has been bothering us as we have been observing government responses to the COVID-19 problem. And we do think that everyone understands that COVID-19 impacts on the economy and on health, and lockdowns have also impacted on people's ability to earn a living and, to a certain extent, the regulations have reduced the health risk. But an area that has not been dealt with is the impact of both COVID-19 and lockdowns on people's resilience. And this is something that at Stellenbosch University we have been talking to various universities and NGOs about, and we wrote to the president about. And I'm glad that Santam, together with FAIRLADY and all of the parties involved in the Women of the Future project, are recognizing mental health as something that is an issue for women generally, but a crucial issue for entrepreneurs. I do want to say, being an entrepreneur anyway is about dancing with uncertainty. Yes. But when there's heightened volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, as is happening under COVID-19, the fourth industrial revolution, and being a transitional state, even the toughest of minds have difficulty coping, and I think when women entrepreneurs have had to deal with that. There's various studies that are showing that it is a big issue. I think the Need Creme study is one of the studies where Stellenbosch University has been involved. Tumor Foundation also coordinated an event where people talked about it. And key among that is that women entrepreneurs not only now have to deal with the uncertainty and the natural risks that go with running a business, you now operating in an environment where the uncertainties are exponential. It's not just the COVID-19, it's government can decide today that we on phase 1, then we're on phase 5, then we can trade in tobacco, then we can't trade in tobacco, and all of those things work on you. But also, people have had to take care of their families. So you're worried about people in your house catching COVID-19. That on its own works on your mind. And what has been added to many families is homeschooling. So you're dealing with just the uncertainties of the possibility of being sick, you're dealing with homeschooling, and you're then also dealing with the uncertainties of running a business just generally, coupled with the uncertainties of the regulatory environment.
Anyone else can relate to that?
Yeah, I think it's really, this has really shown up what happens to women who are trying to work. That they are, and I think that women, even women who aren't entrepreneurs, who are going to try to go back into the workforce after lockdown, they are less likely to be promoted because they've had such a terrible time during lockdown looking after their children and homeschooling, that they actually probably haven't been as effective as men have been in that situation. And I think there's a real danger that when women go back into the workforce, that they're going to be overlooked in terms of promotion because of how they've had to work under these conditions. So I agree with you, Tuli. I think that these women need kind of psychological support.
COVID-19, so sorry, you go.
No, I was going to say absolutely to Susie. Even during COVID-19, you get colleagues saying, I can't do that because I will be homeschooling during that time, even though ordinarily you're supposed to have an 8 to 5 job. But because the children are now needing to be sorted out, you have to divide your time between caring for your children and also those who had really, really small children. ECDCs were closed, so that was an added responsibility. But also looking after the sick is predominantly a woman's job. That adds to anxieties apart from taking some of your time. But hopefully at some stage I will talk a little bit about how many entrepreneurs have coped. And I suspect the ones that we have listened to right now have used the same skills. That's why they've been able to triumph in adversity.
Yes, and we'd all be able to learn a great deal from their unique experiences. Now, yesterday the President presented his economic response plan, recovery plan. Do you think that it goes far enough in terms of addressing these particular issues, you know?
Firstly, I must say that it is a great plan. It has a lot of kernels of wisdom, and it's breaking the mold in terms of how we've done things in restructuring our economy and responding to our dire situation. However, it definitely does not respond to mental health. It doesn't respond to the whole issue of building resilient individuals, resilient families, and resilient communities, which is part of Sustainable Development Goals. And I do think that together with the women in this room and anybody else who is concerned, we need to approach the president to have another pillar in that strategy. In fact, it shouldn't just be an economic recovery strategy. We're not an economy, we're a country of people. The economy is there to serve us. We're not here as slaves of the economy. And therefore, as we rebuild our economy, we should be rebuilding our social fabric to make sure that we have an economy that makes us thrive, that makes our communities thrive. And therefore, we will be giants. We'll be a giant among nations, provided our people are thriving.
Yes, so it's not a debate between lives or livelihoods. It's a yes and solution that we are meant to find.
Absolutely. Actually, when we meet in this social justice think tank, including SCOPRA, we say the approach should be threefold: life, livelihoods, and well-being. And the well-being is really about looking at how do we make sure that people are thriving? How do we make sure that families are thriving, communities are being rebuilt? Because everything has been affected, including extended families. Those of us who have extended families, for a while you found that you couldn't visit your grandma. And that has created a new culture. If we don't reset, you'll find a situation where nobody visits anyone. Because every time we get used to something for over 21 days, it becomes a new habit. But the whole issue of mental health, people have become isolated. And entrepreneurship generally is an isolating enterprise, especially in those first 1,000 days, because you might just be the only employee of your enterprise, or you might have 2 or more people. So now add COVID-19, when you couldn't even visit your family or be visited by your family, that has left quite a scar that needs to be rebuilt. But thank God, I think the women entrepreneurs themselves are probably operating like women like Charlotte McClege, where, yes, we want government to do something to create an environment that fosters resilience. However, it takes you also to be agile in responding to the environment. And what I've learned from women such as Charlotte McClege and Olive Schreiner was that they built these resilience skills in themselves. You find that these are women that had sharpened levels of emotional intelligence, which is the ability to move your emotions with the environment, to be agile in responding to your environment rather than letting the environment just press the button with you. They had deepened spirituality, which is spiritual intelligence. They had deepened levels of social intelligence, which is the ability to leverage the community. We say it takes a village to raise a child, but it also takes a village to achieve anything that is worth celebrating. And they also had high levels of intellectual intelligence, which is something we can breed every day. And I suspect, or what I've learned from the mostly young people that we're going to celebrate today, including the ones that are not even in the final group, is I think a lot of them have all of these intelligences and they cultivate them every day.
And they're growing up in an environment where they need to develop those skills. Anyone else feel like we could just talk about the subject of mental health and anxiety yes, forever. But we move on now. We'd like to give Enid Lismore a turn. And I think pressing on in its heart today is a topic that keeps most of us as entrepreneurs awake at night, namely, how do we manage teams and staff morale during and after this COVID crisis?
Wow, Doreen. So managing morale during steady state is hard enough. You add a global pandemic and it becomes a really hard, tough task. And I think if we were honest with ourselves, I think there wasn't a single organization anywhere in the world who was prepared to cope with the size and complexity of this. So my grandfather always said, people are like toothpaste. You only know what's inside once you squeeze them. And I can tell you this, Santam people are good toothpaste. And I think that got us so far. Our people, our teams, our leaders acted with clarity and conviction from day one all the way through. And when I think about just some of the practical steps that we took and the practical ways we just intervened in the lives of our people. So firstly, we communicated frequently. The leadership team was convicted in terms of ensuring that our people were well looked after and in the full totality of what wellness and looking after people means. So we ensured that our people were secured with information. They understood our stance on where we were. We spent countless hours in rooms planning, and then we ensured that the communication rippled through very, very quickly. Secondly, we mobilized quite fast. Within the third week of the pandemic, we mobilized around a number of wellness offerings, and we provided a lot of psychosocial support, virtual clinics, online clinics. We ensured that there were Thrive workshops so that the individual psyche, that their emotions were being well looked after, because the isolation was obviously quite terrifying for some. For some of us, being with our families for such extended period of time was also quite shocking, mostly for them, not for us who are at work. We had a situation where our IT teams, and IT teams are not generally celebrated, but our IT teams mobilized so that every single person, whilst we were not prepared for it, from day one, were able to operate productively outside of the office and remotely, ensuring that those people felt secure in terms of the roles and the jobs that they had. Some other quite practical things that we did is we continued with salary increases. So despite the economic turmoil and concerns for a big organization, and we have over 6,000 people working for us, we continued to ensure that people were looked after. We mobilized around recognition and a reward platform on a weekly basis so that both nominees and those who won received a small reward just to acknowledge their contribution during this time. Again, I think I just really do want to call out just the leaders that we have at Santam, because this is not possible without a values core within your leadership culture that talks to empathy, talks to care, and talks to support. And Santam people and Santam leaders have it in spades.
Wow. Wow. That was pretty phenomenal.
Thank you.
And I think pretty much a rare experience in business, where most companies have responded with retrenchments, with salary cuts, with austerity drives. So well done to you, Santam. I would now like to speak to Dawn Nathan Jones for a moment, and I think that Dawn wants to deal with the ever-present conundrum that every business has to face, and that is of managing cash flows and how do you sustain your revenue, especially during difficult times.
Thank you, Doreen, and thank you so much to FAIRLADY and Santam for allowing me to be part of this incredible event. And Doreen, I think the question is, well, it's not only a question, the statement is really crucial, because I think every single person in business felt a huge decline in revenue. Some businesses actually literally overnight, their revenue disappeared. So through recent research and through a book that myself and my partner Les, who's in the audience, my business partner, we wrote a book during hard lockdown. And it was just the most inspiring thing I've ever done in my life. And thank you to Tuli for endorsing our book. And why I want to mention the book is because it started off with a call one morning when we were in hard lockdown from Les to say, we've got to do something. There are just so many entrepreneurs and small businesses out there who need our help. So we started reaching out to our network, and that's when we discovered just how bad the situation was. And all of the small businesses and the entrepreneurs we spoke to were saying, we just haven't got money to put food on the table. We have children, we have mouths to feed, and we don't have the money. So we started via Zoom, and it was very fortunate because no one could tell us that they were busy, they were overseas, or they were in a board meeting. So we managed to get the likes of Tuli, and we managed to get people on Zoom meetings. We interviewed about 27 entrepreneurs and small businesses. And it was very clear that so many entrepreneurs focus only on top-line revenue. And when COVID hit, all of a sudden, they had nothing. And I think for most entrepreneurs, top-line revenue is following your passion. That's what you love doing. So you chase revenue and you chase revenue, but you don't ever get to look at your balance sheet or how you've built cash reserves over the years. And many entrepreneurs, we felt, had been living sort of month by month by month. But having said that, I think, there were just amazing stories, how it was adapt or die, people choosing triumph over adversity, people knowing that, like, they had to do something. And the entrepreneurs that we interviewed weren't major corporate entrepreneurs. These were ordinary people doing extraordinary things. But the center core, and I've heard this being spoken about today, was hope. Everybody had hope. And I think what happened is the fear and the inertia that we were in, I think, was the catalyst that gave us the hope. And it was the remedy for hope. Now, Professor Tuli Malanzela is our beacon of hope. So the book is the stories of hope, but it was very evident that entrepreneurs really do not look at building reserves, cash reserves. So, for me, revenue and your income statement is very much about your passion and what you do and drive sales. But I think in future, as entrepreneurs, we've got to look to lock in our customers. How do we build annuity income? How do we sustain our revenue through social media? So everyone was rushing out building digital platforms. But a digital platform means nothing if people don't know your product and you haven't built incredible customer loyalty and customer service. So the two go hand in hand. So we found that the entrepreneurs who did better and whose revenue was more sustainable had invested in digital transformation and technology, and also invested very much in building their cash reserves. But definitely, the passion was very evident. And I think if you just look at the videos we saw just now, it's clear that in our country, the one thing that drives our entrepreneur is their passion. The passion is just unbelievable, and the courage and the strength to really go outside of their comfort zone, to do things that they wouldn't ordinarily do. And I also, Susie, you were saying you don't want to hear the new norm. I can't handle the word pivot anymore because everyone talks about pivot. For me, pivoting is a ballerina that pivots. I don't know if anyone did ballet, but that's what I think of pivoting. But how people didn't invent, but how they reinvented what they were already doing and what they were already doing incredibly well. But by tweaking it, they managed to sustain their businesses. And we've kept in touch with a lot of the people that were in our book, and we are onto our second book. But it was just phenomenal to see that as entrepreneurs, sometimes we just chase the now, and we don't look at creating wealth for the future. So please, I urge all entrepreneurs, and I think it was one of the big lessons that we learned, that we don't sometimes look at our balance sheets and how strong our balance sheet is, and keep it asset light as opposed to asset heavy. Those are all things that drain you when you don't have any income. So the book was an incredible way to see what was happening, and also keep us in touch with the incredible things that people were doing to create revenue. So people that had furniture shops couldn't sell furniture because it wasn't essential items, quickly turned their furniture manufacturing into making desks and home office equipment, and using augmented reality to actually get to people to actually sell their products. People who had restaurants that turned them into soup kitchens. So, it was just an incredible journey for me to discover how people were looking at their businesses differently, and how we were forced to look not only at today and spending all the money that's in your bank, but how to preserve it. And I think that's been, for me, the big lesson over the last couple of months, is really preserving your income and growing a very strong, healthy balance sheet.
I think that's a universal lesson, though, whether you're running a household or whether you're running a business, is to take a longer term view and make sure that it is sustainable in the long term. And then, of course, there's a question on everybody's mind, and that is, what will the world of work look like in the future? Will we return to a physical space? And more importantly, should we? Susie Brokenshaw.
Okay, thank you, Doreen. First of all, I just want to say, Reedy, I don't think I said thank you for being a judge earlier on. I'm so delighted. I was so delighted when you agreed. Thank you. I'm sorry for, yeah, okay. And then, okay, just to talk about space. And I think, to me, that's been really interesting, because I think a lot of the businesses that have switched very quickly, one of the things that they've dropped is a physical space. And they've worked out that they can be very mobile businesses. And it's made them look at their businesses in a completely different way. And so they're saving money on rentals, and they are putting their resources into other things that are making themselves mobile and making themselves digitally accessible, that are really going to change the businesses. So I think that's the one thing. And the second thing is, now in a country with very reduced resources, as we have now, the story that I told about Yishi in my speech was, I think it's such an interesting idea to share resources. So for a whole lot of reasons in South Africa, because there are so few resources, they are limited, why not share them? Why not have a kind of a relay system going, where as one business leaves, the other business comes? It divides the costs, it makes it much more affordable for everybody, and it means it spreads the success. So I think that, and also in South Africa, where security is an issue, if premises are being used 24 hours a day, it's in everybody's interest for that to happen, and for communal spaces to be used 24 hours a day. And I think there's huge opportunity here for entrepreneurs to support each other and to share those costs of starting up businesses and doing business in South Africa. And that's why I think that that's why I think that physical space is such an interesting thing to think about in the post-COVID world.
Yes, entrepreneurs are always encouraged to sweat your assets. In other words, optimize, their use and their application. But we've only really learned, and we're beginning to only really learn what that means.
I agree completely, because it was kind of an intellectual idea. And it's only now, when you're physically removed from your space, that you start thinking, do I need it? What do I actually need in that space? How can I optimize it? And actually, I know it's been terrible, COVID, but it's also been a gift in that point of view, is it's made us all reassess what we really need. And I think that makes us stronger and lighter going forward. Not that much lighter when you think, but you know what I mean in terms of business.
We've all been bemoaning what COVID has done to us. And okay, I was the first to confess, I was so anxious that I ate the whole month's groceries in the first 10 days. And I'm battling to get rid of it.
As did we all.
Finally, Reedy, we'd love to hear from you. We've seen your beautiful face and you've been so quiet up there. Now, this is the other skill that COVID has taught me, is that when you conference remotely, do not look at the picture of the person, look at the camera. Right.
Yes.
Right, because otherwise you'll get your eye lines all wrong. Rudy, it's such a privilege and a pleasure always to welcome you. We're sorry the distance separates us today, but we're glad that you're here and that you can speak to us about the importance of renewing one's purpose, staying the course in a world that seems increasingly unjust and detached. Rudy.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm really, really glad to be in this space. And as you were all saying, your introductory remarks and your commentary, I was thinking I am the personification of the demands on women, because the reason I can't be with you, I am living with somebody who needs some care in our home. I have 2 little children running around. I can see them with the corner of my eye somewhere in the garden. And my 4-year-old asked me, are you going to have your conference in the cottage or in the bedroom? When I say the bedroom, she takes that to mean she can just open my door and just walk in. When I say the cottage, she knows that it is a no-go area. So this is where I am, so that I can have some uninterrupted time with you. Thank you so much for being flexible, for adapting, for allowing me to still lean in and participate, even though I have these demands on me as a wife, as a daughter, and as a mother. You know, Doreen, I wrote off 2020, not in a negative way. I wrote it off in that I gave myself permission to not complete certain tasks. I gave myself permission to have different goals, different ideas, a different energy. I gave myself the permission to be as productive as my emotional health could possibly allow me. In my line of work, content producing, selling that content, because that's the entrepreneurial part of broadcasting, there are lots of things that were signed off in February that didn't come to fruition. And there's absolutely nothing I can do about that. Those that I've been able to rescue, I rescued them, but others have fallen by the wayside, and it's okay. I'm giving myself permission to mourn that which I have lost, but also know that where there's still life, where there's still a purpose, there's a reason to exist, and I'll kind of rejig things again next year. But just on purpose, I think that when I went through the entries from our phenomenal entrepreneurs, from our phenomenal women, young and old, and I mean that not in terms of age, but in terms of years of existence from a business point of view. When you take that and you look at our political landscape and the rot that is still permeating the air from the PPE scandals and the corruption that we didn't expect to be experiencing at this just desperate time, the entrepreneurs and everybody else, you have to think quite profoundly about, why do I exist? I don't exist so that I can weaken others, so that I can have all the resources to myself. And that goes to your idea as well, Susie, about sharing. We are seeing small businesses that have no credibility, that have allowed themselves to be part of this kind of political game. And I think if you are an entrepreneur, not just in South Africa, but anywhere in the world, you have to think very deeply about your contribution to society beyond your business offering. You have to think about what role you play in the larger society. Are you a builder or are you a destroyer? You have to think about the values of your existence, the values that you espouse as a business, as an individual. And if there are some who hold power and they want us to believe that the only way to do business in South Africa and in the world is to be oppressive, is to exclude and to take everything by yourself, for yourself, that's the only way you're going to get business. We ought to, as entrepreneurs, as professionals, as citizens, reject that. We have to insist that there's a different way of doing business and that we'll play by the book. And I think it's not just a simplistic legal framework, but it's also about the ethics. Who are we? What do we aspire to be? What kind of citizens, corporate citizens, do we want to be? We don't want to be the kind of corporate citizens that steal from the country and therefore impoverish the whole nation. So that's something that I think very, very carefully about. And another example that I used, that I'd like to use that is more international, is that in the early days of COVID, there was a sense that there's a French pharmaceutical company that was striding ahead in the development of a vaccine. We know that there are more now. Immediately thereafter, there was talk that America, led by who, was trying to lock them in so that the vaccine, if it's developed, becomes available to America only. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, took it, was very offended by that because the pharmaceutical company is French. So that drives home the purpose issue, that we can't be individualistic as business people and as professionals. We've got to think about the greater good. And we are in this era, Susie, where somehow sharing is a swear word. Somehow sharing means that we are weak. Somehow having empathy means that we're not strong. So it's kind of that whole macho survival of the fittest. And that's a kind of business practice that I'd like us to really reject. And I'm addressing the young entrepreneurs in particular, that sharing is not weakness, that our political leaders have shown that they like dominance, they like the one-upmanship. But I think, Doreen, quite deeply, and that's why I'm very comfortable challenging even the man or woman who occupies the highest office in the land, because I live by that truth, that this is not just their country, it is ours too. It is ours too. And they cannot have the sole authority to set the tone and culture and vision. We have to participate in that democracy. And I tell young people all the time, participating doesn't mean joining a political party, being a celebrity, being famous, being well-known. No. The decisions that you make, how you mentor the younger people in your family, in your community, the decisions that you make for your business, where you source your business from, who you hire, who you listen to, who you promote, whom you open the door for, all of that goes a long way in building a community, in building a society, and in building a country. So every day that I do my work, I think this is not just a broadcasting show. This is not just broadcasting content. What impact do I want to make? And am I representing the underdog? Am I telling the truth? Are these the values that I can defend years from now? And I think businesses now, as we see with state capture, as we see allegations of corruption with PPE, you have a big role to play in resetting the culture of ethics, of inclusion, and of sharing.
I agree.
My niece is 11 years old and recently went out with her mom on a shopping drive, and she said, "Mom, I have a request. Can you not make any political or economic statements today?" And her mom turned to her and said, "I'm sorry, I would love to indulge you, but I cannot promise, because everything about life is political and economic in nature." And really, you've just reminded us of this holistic view that we need to take about our lives, our values, our ethics, our practices, to define or to decide who we are now, and more importantly, who we want to be, and how we carry that out in all of our daily endeavors, and also how we mentor the young people that we have to deal with. Anybody else want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think it's a chance to reinvent ourselves. I mean, we were talking earlier very briefly about kind of the ideal of the Rainbow Nation, that we just all were so happy with the ideal that we didn't realize that we actually had to do something about it. We had to work towards it. And I think this is a fantastic chance for us to reinvent ourselves as a country and to kind of get rid of the dream in a way and embrace the reality of where we are and how to go forward.
Yes.
And I'd just like to add on that, if you don't mind, and we see that globally as, the US prepares for elections, as the UK can't figure itself out when it comes to Brexit and so on, that, we have to reject distraction. I mean, I can get easily distracted sometimes, throw my passion into something and argue quite passionately about it. And then at the end of it, I think I've just wasted my energy. I've just lost focus on the very thing that I felt passionately about, because I've allowed someone with whatever intentions that they have. It could be a political person, an economic person, a friend, whatever. But just to really sharpen our focus, to just find out what is this about, and just not allow the background noise to remove our focus from that goal.
Yeah, I agree.
And can I just, sorry.
No, go first.
Just to add to that, I think that I think we need to be open to the fact that the road to recovery is not going to be an easy journey. It's going to be a long process. It's not a straight line. This road is filled with many more potholes, and I think we need to be prepared for that. But I think we've built that resilience. That resilience, I think, was within us, but I think COVID just exacerbated that resilience that we have. And I think now more than ever, I think entrepreneurship will be the future. We need to create jobs. We need new ideas. We need small businesses to really drive and kickstart the economy in the future. But just one thing that I'd really like to say, and I'm sure everyone agrees with me, that this is a long road ahead. This is not just, you know, and I think even the people that I've interviewed and the entrepreneurs I've worked with, you know, everyone's looking to survive, and I think the thriving part is going to take some time. But it's amazing how people have changed their attitude more towards purpose, which really spoke about, as opposed to profit, you know. Everyone's become so much more purpose-driven. And I think if you follow your purpose and you follow your dream, and if you do it well, the rest will follow.
Remind us again, what was the title of your book?
So I'm allowed to tell them. Everyone's getting a copy of the book today. It's called Hope Stories. So everyone will be getting a copy. And I hope bracelets and I hope masks. So we'll hope you all up by the end of the session.
So I'll have to buy another one to give away.
Yeah? We will give you another one.
Women need to support other women. A quick question from our audience. My business has suffered due to COVID. I've had to let go of staff. My revenue has declined dramatically. How do I get my business back on track again? I feel at a loss. We've all heard those words.
Right.
Prof?
My answer would be firstly to say I'm sorry about what has happened, and not to diminish your pain. This is what quite a number of businesses are struggling with. I think the figures were given by you and Susie about, at this stage, more than 2 million people have lost their jobs, which obviously means the owners of those businesses are also in dire straits. And sometimes you lose a job being the only employee in that company. What I would suggest to the person would be two things. One is to explore the government framework. We do know that 500 billion was set aside to help people to get loans, but banks used the standard framework for awarding loans. The president spoke last night and said he's been engaging with banks about relaxing the modus operandi so that more people can be caught into that. The second advice, just based on what I've seen with entrepreneurs during COVID-19 and over the years, is to recognize what has happened and accept it, which is what we've heard from all of the speakers. Secondly, reset. And reset might mean pivoting or might mean diversifying. And pivoting means, obviously, you can, well, I know that Dawn gave it a different interpretation, but the one I got at Harvard is when you get off track completely. And I know a woman, for example, who lost her job at a company, but then she baked a cake for her daughter. And people liked the cake, and people started ordering cakes. And then she pivoted into making cake. So that's one thing that you may want to consider, is pivoting. The third option is to look at the option that Susie spoke about joining hands with others, because the future of work is going to be about how agile are we in dancing with change and finding our place within that. But just going back to the point that was made by Rudy, whatever you do at the Tuma Foundation, we say remain ethical, purpose-driven, impact-conscious, and committed to serve. Because when all else fails, your heart of service is going to keep you going, and it will open new opportunities for you.
Thank you. I think that's beautiful. That's a beautiful note on which to conclude this discussion. Thank you to all of our judges for your personal and very practical insights into dealing with some of the pressing issues and persistent challenges facing all of our entrepreneurs. And I could sense from the rapt attention of our finalists in the audience that they really found the content relatable and of great benefit. I'd now like to ask Susie Brokenshaw to present all of our finalists with their certificates. Susie. I'm going to call on our finalists. I'll call them on stage in no particular order. First, please help me welcome Boniswa Mayeza of Shisha.
Thank you. Congratulations. Really, so well done. What a beautiful thing you did.
Up next is Carolyn Hancock of Angels Care Center, Tembelihle School, and the DNA Project.
Thank you. Well done, Karen. It's so inspiring what you do. Thank you. Oh, is that okay? Thank you. Okay.
Next, we'd like to recognize Catherine Clark of the Harvest Table.
Catherine, well done. Fabulous business.
The next certificate has your name on it, Luella Naidu of Jezreel Craig Holdings.
Well done, Luella. So inspiring, and I love your mind.
Let's welcome to the stage now Maria Griwa of the Retrade Project.
Well done, I'm getting the certificate now. Well done, Maria. It's such an amazing initiative.
We also have a certificate for you, Mamucheng Dalsi Rakumakwe of Quadcare Occupational Health.
Thank you. Well done, Dalsi. Fantastic initiative. She's
Sibongile Mdlaga of KwaZulu Beverages, come and get yours.
Well done. What a fabulous thing.
We welcome now Sue van der Linde of Iris House Children's Hospice.
Well done, Sue. The video of your business is amazing.
And finally, we want to recognize Welile Gumede of Azuel Projects.
Fantastic.
How about another warm round of applause for all of our finalists? Judges, please remain on stage as we are about to announce the winners now. Our first award, and new to the awards this year, is the Reader's Choice Award. It's a very special one because it's voted by the public. I'd like to call on Susie, who's already next to me, the editor of Fair Lady. She's going to hand over the very first Reader's Choice Award. Thank you, Andile.
Thank you, Andile.
The 2020 Santam Reader's Choice Award goes to Luella Naidu of Jezreel Craig Holdings. Luella wins an Entrepreneur Spectrum to Success course valued at 6,995 rands from Over the Rainbow. Congratulations. Luella, I have every confidence that your prize will be particularly valuable to your business, which serves unemployed graduates and the disabled in particular. Well done. Well done. And now the Santam Women of the Future Award winners in association with FAIRLADY and TRUELOVE. The winners receive a cash prize from Santam, plus a PR package worth 10,000 rand from Lulaland, a luxurious beauty hamper worth over 5,000 rands from Estee Lauder, business printing worth 5,000 rands from Lithotech, a course worth 17,000 rands from Gibbs, that's the Gordon Institute of Business Science, a Samsonite Zalia 2.0 bail handle worth 3,699 rand, a lady's wristwatch worth 1,095 rand from Misguided, an hour's invaluable mentorship with one of our judges, a media training course from Santam. And I would now like to call on Dawn Nathan-Jones, our social entrepreneur. She is going to hand over the Rising Star Award. Dawn. Thank you so much. Andile.
Thanks, Andile. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the 2020 Sanlam Rising Star Award goes to Welile Gumede of As You Well Projects. Welile wins 50,000 rands in cash from Santam, plus prizes mentioned before.
Can we get a little laugh? Well done, well deserved, well done. Nice photo. Well done, yes, yes. Well
This pandemic has certainly highlighted the structured inequality in our country. Our people are even more food insecure, and that's political speak for hungry than ever before. We wish you every success, Welile, as you put your prize to good use. Congratulations once again. For our next award, I'd like to invite Professor Thuli Madonsela to hand over the Social Entrepreneur Award. Professor? Thank you so much, Andile. Doing a good job there, young man. The winner of the 2020 Santam Social Entrepreneur Award in association with FAIRLADY and TRUELOVE is Carolyn Hancock of Angels Care Center, Thembelihle School, and the DNA Project.
Well done.
Carolyn wins 50,000 rands in cash from Santam, plus the prizes mentioned before. Carolyn, congratulations on your award, and thank you for your life-saving interventions through your Thembelihle School, the DNA Project, and Angels Care. Let's hear it, please, for Carolyn. Thank you. And now I'd like to call on Enid Lizamore, Executive Head of Human Resources at Santam. She is going to hand over the Woman of the Future Award. Thank you, Andile. The 2020 Santam Woman of the Future goes to Mamucheng Dalsi Rakumako of Quad Care Occupational Health. Congratulations, Dalsi, congratulations. No doubt this wonderful recognition here today will encourage you to pursue your plan of providing affordable health care to 20,000 low and middle income patients in the next 3 years. Mamucheng Dalsi Rakumakwe wins 80,000 rands in cash from Santam, plus a PR package. I'm crying too. Plus a PR package valued at 10,000 rands from Lulalind, a luxurious beauty hamper worth over 5,000 rands from Estee Lauder, business printing worth 5,000 rands from Lithotech, a course worth 17,000 rands from the Gordon Institute of Business Science, that's Gibbs, a Samsonite Zalia 2.0 bail handle worth 3,699 rands, a lady's wristwatch worth 1,095 rands from Misguided, an hour's invaluable mentorship with one of our judges, a media training course from Santam. Please join me now in a final rousing round of applause to all of our winners. Each and every one of them is truly deserving of the honors bestowed on them here today, and we wish them every success in their endeavors. A great big thank you to our title sponsor, Santam, as well as every other sponsor that has come on board, to our wonderful panel of judges. Thank you for giving so generously of your time, and we also bear in mind, really, that you are with us. To our audience here in the studio, as well as every one of you who have joined us today, thank you. Continue to lift as you rise. Do good as you do well. Nagomso. Thank you.